So here we're going to look at request substatuses and how they can be useful to you in request management. And we're going to explore how to create and manage them in Service Manager. So request substatuses provide detailed updates on the status of a request. While a request might be generally marked as open, substatuses can offer a way to describe different scenarios or stages that occur while the request is open and being handled, for example. So this extra detail helps communicate the request's exact state to both the support team and the customer. So Service Manager has several active states available that represent stages in the request lifecycle when the request is not cancelled or closed. So for each of these, shown here, you can create your own substatuses, either on a global basis for all services or on a per service basis. You can even create different substatuses for each request type within a service if you need to. Service Manager gives you a lot of control over substatuses, and you can even automate actions and events based on substatuses in workflows, but we won't cover workflows here. Creating and managing global request substatuses is done here in the Service Manager configuration settings. So from here, you can create and manage them for a request type, and the substatuses will then be available in all of your services. It's a similar process wherever you create and manage them, but in this video we'll show how it's done at the service level. So creating and managing request substatuses on a per service basis is done from the service portfolio in a service's request configuration settings for a request type, as we can see here. Now the key benefit of substatuses is that you can name them whatever you want, which means that they can be unique to your own use cases. Not only that, but you can also give them an alternative name that customers see, which is different from the name your Hornbill admins and agents see. So to demonstrate this, we're going to create two substatuses for an incident type of request from the service that we're in here. So here let's create our first one, and we're going to name it under investigation. This indicates that the support team is working on the request. So here we can provide an alternative customer label, and this will be displayed to customers. So let's give it something here. Here we can set the parent status of the substatus, and for this we're going to choose the active status. There's also some other options available. So here we have the option to enable whether a reason is required from the support team, which means that the support team would need to enter a reason for selecting this substatus, but for our example we'll leave this unchecked. And we can also set the timeline visibility to specify who can see the substatus in the request view, and we'll keep this visible so that customers can see. So we also have an option here which is related to Supplier Manager, but we'll leave this unchecked for now. So let's make our substatus available, and let's create our second one. So this next one is to indicate that we're waiting for a response from the customer. And again, we'll give it an alternative label for customers. But for this substatus, I'll set the parent request state to on hold. So we're done with this one, but before we save it, note that because we set the parent state to on hold, there's an additional option now available. So when this is enabled, agents are able to set a specific date and time until which the request is on hold. This can be useful for ensuring consistency across the timing for certain things to happen and making sure requests just don't get forgotten about. We don't need it here in our example though, so we'll leave it alone. So let's publish and save this one as well. Now here we have the option to automatically change the substatus when a customer updates a request, putting it back into the hands of the support team. So here we're going to enable it. So now let's look at an associated incident type of request, first as an agent. So we now have the newly created substatuses available for selection. And if we select one, we can see the request status changes to on hold, as we set it to do just a moment ago. Now let's view the same request as a customer. Now here we can see the substatus is using the alternative name for customers. Now let's provide an update as the customer. So once this is submitted, the substatus automatically changes to under investigation, just as we configured it to, which in our example indicates that the support team is now handling the request again. So to summarize, request substatuses can be set globally or on a per service basis. They can also be used to trigger certain events and prompt customers and agents to act on them, as in the example that we just saw. Request substatuses provide a powerful means of communicating more granular and relevant statuses of a request and where it is in its life cycle, which benefits both the support team and the customer.